Since time began, mankind has sought the answers to life's greatest questions. It is a burning desire that has driven both nations and individuals to consume and conquer all frontiers set before them in a search for ultimate meaning. The quest for answers has taken the human race to the very ends of the earth and beyond. Yet, despite our greatest achievements, there remains one as yet unconquered final frontier: death and the life beyond. And it is this frontier that holds perhaps the true answer to all life's mysteries.
Sir, can you hear me? Orderly, get the antitoxins ready. Sir, can you hear me?
What on earth is going on?
That's impossible.
It's medically inexplicable.
Hello, I'm Ron Bailey. Welcome to the Lazarus Phenomenon, the program where we seek to answer that one most intriguing question: is there really life after death? Every person has probably asked that question at least once in his or her lifetime. Do we cease to exist the day we exhale our last breath? Or is there more to it than that? In this program, we'll be talking to experts in both the medical and the scientific fields, as well as to people who've literally been to hell and back and experienced a heaven beyond their wildest dreams. So join us, if you dare, as we enter into the Lazarus Phenomenon. Where do we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? Is our existence on Earth merely a product of chance, a random act of cosmic coincidence, or is there really another world beyond the seeing eye? Since earliest times, most cultures have displayed a belief in life after death. The ancient Egyptians believed that when they died, they too would make a journey to another world, where they would lead a new life. They consequently paid vast amounts of money to have their bodies properly preserved, as they believed they would undergo various tests on the other side. Similar beliefs can be traced back to the great civilizations of Greece and Rome, and various cultures as far afield as the Mayans and Incas of South and Central America, the Khoisan of Southern Africa, and the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. In later times, particularly in the Middle Ages, life was dominated by a fear of demons and the terror of damnation. Throughout the ages, poets and writers voiced their own interpretations of the teachings of Jesus and what the biblical authors had written of heaven and hell. One particular story, related by Jesus himself, was of the rich man and Lazarus.
There was a certain rich man clothed in purple and fine linen. And there was a beggar named Lazarus, who laid at his gate full of sores, and desired it so to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And so it was that the beggar died and was carried by the angels unto Abraham's bosom. Now the rich man fared sumptuously every day, feasting and dining to his delight. But it came to pass that he too died, and awoke in Hades. And while in torment, he looked up and saw Lazarus and Abraham afar off.
Father Abraham, have mercy upon me. Send Lazarus to his finger in water and cool my tongue. I am in agony in this fire.
My friend, remember that while you lived, you had everything good, and Lazarus everything bad. Now he is at peace, and it's you who are in pain. And besides, there's this great chasm between us that no one can cross over.
Abraham, please send Lazarus to my father's house. I have 5 brothers. Do not let them come to this terrible place.
Your brothers can read what Moses and the prophets wrote. That's what they should pay attention to.
It's not enough. If someone from the dead were to go to them and tell them, they would turn to God.
If they won't pay attention to Moses and the prophets, they won't even listen to someone who comes back from the dead.
But is this belief, this seemingly universal human instinct, merely the product of superstition and religious doctrines? Or is there actual scientific evidence to support it? Today, scholars and religious figures are certainly divided. Some talk of reincarnation, others of assimilation into the universal life force. Nobody knows for sure, or do they? Towards the end of the 20th century, a phenomena arose in which people reported near-death experiences, otherwise known as NDEs, in which they encountered some form of afterlife reality. Modern medicine began referring to these occurrences as the Lazarus Phenomenon, after another biblical character, also named Lazarus, who was revived by Jesus 4 days after his supposed death. But just what is near-death experience? Dr. Jeff Long elaborates.
Well, as the name near-death experience implies, these people have some event in which they are severely physically compromised. Generally, there's a severe physical malady that occurs very suddenly often or at the end of a chronic illness. Near-death experiences are very frequently associated with cessation of heart function or cessation of breathing function, and very often both. And given that 10 seconds after that the EEG, a measure of brain electrical activity, goes absolutely flat, it's medically inexplicable that near-death experiencers are having a conscious experience. There's so much more evidence behind something more going on with near-death experiences, something that is not medically explicable. There are blind people, including people that are blind from birth, that have near-death experiences, and for most of them it's a visual experience. That is absolutely medically inexplicable. These are people that are blind that for the first experience in their life where they've had vision and can see things in the world was during their near-death experience. There is no other explanation for that. Time and time again we hear accounts of people that had their near-death experience and their consciousness separates from their body. So from a vantage point of their consciousness apart from their body, they're able to see and hear what's going on around them while they're being resuscitated. Very often they can see incredible detail of the events going on around them. Out of all the near-death experiencers that I've studied that had their consciousness come apart from their body and where they were seeing earthly everyday events, essentially all of them, what they describe, has been absolutely plausible. And of all the near-death experiencers I've seen who actually went and sought out verification of what they saw while their consciousness was apart from the body, every single time, with only one exception, what they saw was or heard was absolutely correct. And there is no explanation for that, for consciousness apart from the body at the time you're having a cardiopulmonary arrest. To people that think that near-death experience is not legitimate, I would remind them that there's at least 12 to 15 million Americans that have had near-death experience. This is such an enormous number of a shared experience that so greatly affects their life that no matter what the cause of near-death experience, no matter what your ideas about why it occurs, I think there's no question, given the number of lives that it's impacted, that it makes sense to study it. It's an incredible phenomenon, and again, the implications are enormous.
A medical practitioner who has experienced this firsthand is Dr. Melvin Morse of Seattle's prestigious Children's Hospital.
The near-death experience is, in fact, the dying experience. We will all have this experience when we die. The interpretation of the experience is in dispute. Nevertheless, it's a scientific fact, not a belief system, that we will have this experience when we die. There have been 3 major scientific studies of near-death experiences in the last 15 years. And all 3 of these studies document that these experiences are real and they'll happen to us all when we die. So the old ideas that these experiences are caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain, or are hallucinations caused by chaos in the brain at the point of death, are caused by the drugs that are given to patients that we resuscitate when we're dying, those ideas were, of course, respectable scientific theories, but turned out to not be true. In fact, near-death experiences are the dying experience. And that's a scientific fact, not an opinion.
I think in terms, certainly in terms of the consistency of the testimonies in near-death experiences, it suggests that the experience is a reality which is not purely the product of brain chemicals, because I mean we know from studies of the effects of drugs ordinarily that if you give one person a drug and then give the same drug to another person, they'll have 2 completely different experiences. There might be broad similarities, but not the level of consistency you find with a near-death experience.
Science cannot give us the definitive answers to our questions about the afterlife. Not yet. Until it can, our best source of information is the human experiences of those who have undergone death and seen the other side. One such story is that of Daniel Ekechukwu, an African pastor who lay dead in a mortuary for 3 days, yet lived to tell the tale. Let's join him now in Nigeria, where he tells his story of how he was raised from the dead.
Hello, children. How are you, children?
Christmas for the Ekechukwu family was always a time of celebration. Celebration of the birth of Christ and the love of friends and family.
Hi, Dad. Yo, I've got a goat for you.
But this time, things were different. On the surface, everything seemed fine. But inside, Daniel was boiling with anger and unforgiveness. He had recently fought with his wife and was still harboring deep resentment.
That I had a quarrel with my wife on Thursday. And the little quarrel I had with my wife, I frowned on her. Then on Thursday night, she was knocking on my door. I couldn't open the door for her. Then on Friday morning, she now knocked on my door. No, on Friday morning, she woke up and I come out. She said, Daddy, good morning. I did not accept. I didn't talk to her. I kept quiet on her and I left on Friday morning. She offended me. She did something wrong and I was angry on her. I was annoyed.
Daniel's anger had so blinded him that he had not even seen his son that day.
Mommy.
Yeah, my son.
Where is Daddy?
He went to deliver goat to grandfather in Owerri. Soon, my son, go and play.
Daniel's thoughts that day were somewhat distracted, almost as if his mind were somewhere else.
It's okay. When you go back there, you greet your children, greet your wife and family.
I'll do that.
As the sun started dipping down, Daniel began to speed up, wanting to get home. He was still very angry. Nigeria's inner city side streets are notoriously undeveloped, a bumpy ride to say the least. Daniel knew well to travel cautiously, but that day the car seemed somewhat sluggish and unresponsive. As he headed down one of the dirt roads, he reached down to apply the brakes, but there was no response. Daniel began to pump the pedals furiously, but to no avail.
So he came back lamenting Auntie Mommy that pastor is dead, that he saw a group of people carrying him on his head, moving down there. So the moment I heard him screaming and I heard that pastor is dead, I knew he's my husband. So from that upstairs, I ran down. I began to run towards the place where the accident happened.
When Nega arrived at the scene of the accident, she learned that Daniel was still alive, but in a very serious condition. Bystanders had taken him to the local hospital, where Nega found him. After being rushed to the intensive care unit at Burunyu Hospital, Daniel refused to be treated. Instead, he insisted that he be taken to his family doctor, all the way out in Owerri.
I must go to Dr. Mizurake.
He's our family doctor at Owerri.
Family doctor?
It's what my husband wants.
The hospital surgeon told Daniel's wife in no uncertain terms that he was in no state to travel, given the extent of his injuries.
In the head. He's concussed. He's confused now. And he's in no position to decide what's best for him.
But despite the surgeon's pleas, Nega was adamant.
It's what my husband wants.
If he lives now, I'm afraid he will die. And I'm certain of that.
Then they discharged us that night. They said I should sign that I'm taking him on my own risk. Then I had to do it. So we took him to his private doctor at Owerri. On our way to that place, he called me that I should take care of the church and the ministry and the children.
Take care of the children and the ministry.
Shh! Don't try to talk.
I have put your house.
Please don't talk.
Summer called early and I'm
When the ambulance that took me from the hospital and my wife, they were on a high speed rushing me to another better hospital. So suddenly I had some feelings, and for me to look up, I saw two angels.
When Daniel saw the two angels, he wanted to let his wife know, but the angel indicated that he should keep silent. Immediately, Daniel's power of speech was taken from him. Nega began to cry, fearing that Daniel would die. The angels took Daniel by his shoulders and lifted him out of the ambulance. Suddenly, Daniel found himself in another place with one of the angels.
Daniel, I have a lot to show you.
As he looked out, Daniel saw a place where a multitude of people gathered, and their appearance was like that of the angels. Their color was pure white, and their bodies seemed to glow with radiance. Because of their similar appearance, Daniel thought he was seeing a gathering of the angels. Meanwhile, the ambulance rushed to St. Eunice's clinic in Owerri. Neka and a friend of the family waited with bated breath as Dr. Jose Anibunwa examined the patient.
Where's Nega? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do for you. I'm sorry. This is the death certificate. Give it to the mortician. He'll take care of you, okay? I'm sorry.
Then that place, the doctor came and they checked him. After checking him, he discovered that he's dead. That no respiratory organ, that everything is seized, that we should go away or we should deposit him in his own mortuary. Then to me, I disbelieved him. I said, no, that my husband is not dead. He cannot leave me and go like that.
This is not the gathering of the angels, Daniel. This is the gathering of the saints.
The differences between the saints and the angels were subtle. Their color is a pure, brilliant white from their hair down to their feet. But the difference is that the angels have wings, while the saints do not. The saints were worshiping God. They worshiped God with one voice and raised their hands as they were singing. Daniel heard the sound of many instruments, and the sounds were like nothing he had encountered before. He longed to join these people and moved over towards them, but the angels stopped him.
Daniel, don't go. I have a lot to show you. Take this file and record everything you see.
The multitude that Daniel saw were all looking at a bright light that shone like the sun. It was the source of all the light there.
A very thick, heavy light coming upon them there. Now, they were all looking at that light as if they are seeing something there. But to me, I cannot look at that light. I cannot look at that light because it's so dangerous to my eyes. So I try to dodge to look through. But they were looking through. But to me, I cannot look through.
Daniel's body was taken to the mortuary where Burlington Manu, the local mortician, arranged the burial.
So we'll start the embalming procedures. I will need 1,000 naira. Then you get me the gloves, his dresses, and you get the coffin ready. Then you give me 2 days interval before you come for the collection. Is that all right by you?
It was on the 30th of November, 2002. That was the day they brought one Reverend Daniel Eke, who died on accident case. That was the day. Brought by the father known as Mr. Lawrence Eke Ihuba. Then after the treatment, I gave some injections, some meals about, this is 5 mil syringe. I gave about 6 syringes to the fingers and the toes to treat before the embalmment.
The 30th of November 2001 was a date forever etched on Nenka Ekechukwu's heart and mind. In fact, she remembers it well.
That very day, it was terrible and horrible, and I was sorrowing. Then the word of God appeared to me in Hebrew 11:35, women receive their dead body back to life. So when I read that scripture, I said, dead bodies back to life, dead bodies, dead bodies. I began to meditate over the word of God. I said, dead bodies, my husband is one of the dead bodies back to life. I must take him to Bonke's crusade so that he will come back to life.
Let's visit the mansions Jesus prepared for his people.
Immediately, Daniel was in a new place with radiant mansions as far as the eye could see. It was incomparable to anything he knew on earth. Though the appearance resembled buildings, the structure was unusual, not made of any earthly materials. They seemed to be alive, moving.
Daniel, Jesus has finished his work. The mansions are ready, but the saints are not ready.
There was a sound of beautiful singing and worship, and it seemed to come from all around. Daniel wondered where the singing was coming from, because he could see no people there.
Daniel, the worship song you're hearing is being sung by the flowers.
As he looked, Daniel saw the flowers swaying in response to the music. It actually seemed as if they were clapping their hands, shouting, and praising God.
They are waiting for the saints.
It was around between 12:01 midnight when I came out. I started hearing some noise over here. I wondered maybe the churches, the church people over there, maybe they're having crusade or something like that. And I keep on hearing singing and praises, clapping. I wondered. One of my mind told me to come down. Maybe that happens in the mortuary.
We are now going to visit hell. Can you see the gates of hell?
The angel raised his hand, and as he brought it down, the gates ripped open with a great noise. Daniel could hear the crying and wailing of many people, but he could not see any of them. And then a light shone from the angel's body into the darkness, so that Daniel could see more clearly. There were many people there, but unlike the souls in heaven, the appearance of these people was as it had been on earth. They were from every race, culture, and nationality. Every person seemed trapped in their own personal torment, a torment which would go on for eternity, and they could not communicate with others. The sounds of crying and wailing were almost deafening. Suddenly, they all seemed to become aware of Daniel and started crying to him for help. And they called to Daniel only as if they could not see the angel.
Please help! I'm a pastor. I stole money from the church and I lied. Help me, please. I'm ready to repay. Help!
Immediately after the pastor made the statement, the force that was tormenting him seemed to increase. The people had flesh, but no blood, and they almost seemed to be on fire, although no flames could be seen. There was a group of people that were eating their own flesh. They would vomit what they ate, and their flesh grew back. This carried on in an endless cycle of torment.
Those people you see eating themselves, they practiced witchcraft while they were on earth. They specialized in eating human flesh, and now they'll eat themselves forever. They are reaping what they sowed.
That place is not good for any human being created by God to go. And God did not make that place for human being. He made that place for the devil and his agents. But stubborn human beings who will disobey God like the devil will also go there. God have no mind to put any human being in hell. It's a dangerous and a deadly place he made for the devil and his people.
What was to follow was an earth-shattering statement by the angel. Daniel couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams that he would hear the judgment.
Daniel, if the book of your life was to be closed today, this would be your portion.
No. I'm a pastor. I'm a child of God. I'm born again. And I preached all over this country. I mean, the country in which I'm... This can't be. No. This can't.
Enough. Daniel, on your way to the first hospital, you were asking God to forgive you, but you would not forgive your wife, and your sins have not been forgiven. It is a matter of reaping what you've sown. You cannot sow unforgiveness to your wife and reap forgiveness from God.
And immediately he made that statement, my spirit convinced me that what the angel told me or the judgment on me is true. I didn't say no, because I remembered that I had a quarrel with my wife on Thursday. And the little quarrel I had with my wife, I frowned on her. Then on Thursday night, she was knocking on my door. I couldn't open the door for her. Then on Friday morning, she now knocked on my door. No, on Friday morning, she woke up and I come out. She said, Daddy, good morning. I did not accept. I didn't talk to her. I kept quiet on her and I left on Friday morning. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, because my wife provoked me, she offended me, she did something wrong, and I was angry on her, I was annoyed. So I didn't accept her greet. I left on Friday. On my way coming back, I had the accident and died. So now the angel told me that my wife offended me and I did not forgive my wife, and I come to God and ask God to forgive me, that I am not forgiven, that this place should be my portion. I now cry. I did not say no. I did not reject the judgment. The judgment was true to me because I know in my heart I was angry with my wife. I was thinking of what to do on her. I was thinking of, my wife slapped me. My wife slapped me. What am I going to do to her? What am I going to do? I was thinking of what to do. So in my heart, I was annoyed, and I believe God was judging my heart. So he said to me that I didn't forgive my wife, that I'm not forgiving. So while I was crying, shouting and shouting, I was not crying that I was only saying, you see how I destroy my soul? Look at how I destroy my soul. While I was shouting and crying, I was afraid. Tears was all over me. I was panicking because that place is not good for anyone. And the way everything was looking, nothing, if God went to put me inside hell, nothing will prevent him, because while we are discussing, some group of people, thousands of people, we are being sent into hell.
Then in me, I concluded in my heart that I must do something to make sure that my husband is revived. That I believe that he must come back to life if I should make a step of faith, that something good might come out of it. Papa?
What?
We'll take his body to church.
What? Guinea?
We must take Daniel's body to church.
Ada, my daughter, Daniel is dead and is gone.
He will come back to life, I know it.
Neka's father-in-law dismissed her request to remove the body from the mortuary. But meanwhile, on the other side of town, things were working miraculously in her favor.
As early as 5:30 to 6, I left my house with the address, tracing the dad, reaching Amimo Ikeduru. Then when I asked of the man, the man, Mr. Lawrence Eke Ihuba, then they directed me to him and I told him to come and remove the corpse that they brought inside my mortuary. They claimed that he died on accident case because during that time he was bleeding. Yeah. Then I asked them to come and remove the body. I saw some kind of signs. I don't know what is wrong with the corpse. I don't want anything to hurt me because this job is a tedious job. It's a dangerous job.
Morning, Joba. What brings you so early?
I want that body out of my morgue.
Why? Why?
Things happened last night.
What thing happened? What happened?
Sounds of music coming from his room.
Oh, calm down. The music may have come from the village. There were villagers marrying. What does that got to do with the dead?
Not that.
What exactly?
This is no dream. There were music coming from his room.
Joba, tell me, were you drinking last night or what?
I didn't drink anything. I mean every bit of it.
And we took him from the mortuary, we dressed him up and put him inside the casket. Then we took off from Owerri. Then we continued coming down to Onitsha.
His glorious cathedral, Grace of God Mission, Anambra State. That was Aguleri, Umuleri Road, where Reverend Rehad Bonke serving crusade. That let Rehad Bonke pray for him that he will raise again. I started laughing. So this comes, they say, yes, okay, give me the tally. she went aboard the tally and cleared their bill. Then we dressed the body. When I dressed the corpse, I called on my assistant to join me. They hired an ambulance. They went and bought a coffin, the white coffin inside the rope there. I said, okay, I'll go with 2 people. Let me witness. Maybe it is the power of God or anything that happens, I will know.
So when we arrived there with our siren, there was tension all over. Security people came, both the church security, the one they signed from local government, even from federal government, even the one that came with bunker. Some of them, they thought that we evil people that came to bomb bunker the first time. They were pushing me left, right, and center. Then I was withstanding their pushing and their torment. They were abusing me and calling me all sorts of names. So at the time I told them that he's dead, he's even a man of God. You people should not kill me. He's a man of God, only that he had an accident and died. That they should allow us to take him inside so that Bonke can pray for him. And I believe that he can come back to life.
The security guards refused them entry into the premises, thinking they might have a bomb in the casket. The procession was redirected to a facility in the back of the church. Daniel was taken out of the casket and laid on a table. People started praying for him, praying for resurrection.
Then the angel said to me that he's sending me back to the world to go and warn this generation, because this is going to be the last warning to this generation.
As prayers was going on, then his heart began to pant. Life began to come in his heart. They continued praying, we were praying. I saw these things were going on. He began to breathe gradually, but his body was still stiff.
I saw myself being held of a lot of people. I was naked, I was wearing only trousers, they pulled all my dress. I saw a crowd of people, more than 20,000 people. I looked my left, right, everywhere. People were shouting, crying everywhere. Some was praising God, some was crying, I was looking around, I couldn't understand what was happening. Because to me, I was falling down and I fell into pit. And to me, when I opened my eyes, I saw all hands was grabbing me. They said to me that I jumped up. I saw this big cathedral. It's a very big cathedral. I looked by my right, my left, my front and my back. Everywhere was full of people. Some people were shouting, some were saying coffin, some say mortuary, some say 3 days. I couldn't understand what was happening because my experience there is not more than 15 minutes. So I don't know what they call about 3 days. To me, there was no night, there was no day. It was only that moment I was into. I now said to my wife, what is happening? She said I should keep quiet until when we get to the house. Brought me back to my house, this place with my wife. So when we get inside the bedroom, that's 2nd of December, I asked my wife, what is happening? What about coffin and 2 days and mortuary? What is happening? Then my wife now began to look at my body where they injected chemical, and she said, Dad, did you know you was in mortuary 3 days? And this is the death certificate, while I left the ambulance, they still went to the hospital. So the doctor now confirmed that I have died. They now use their equipment, check, according to, you can see, they check the heartbeats, everything, the eye pupil, everything, according to the doctor. After checking everything, he now confirmed that I was totally dead. He now gave them certificate that they should remove me. You can see it here, say, remove for mortuary.
A Accounts like these have had an enormous impact worldwide, causing ripples even amongst the medical and scientific professions. In the past, such occurrences were viewed simply as hallucinations caused by hormones produced by the body during extreme trauma. But experts are not so convinced.
Hallucinations tend to be very disordered experiences, and they're nothing like the highly ordered and structured experience that you have with near-death experience. On my website, I specifically asked the question, was the experience dreamlike in any way? And I've actually recently done a formal study of that. Near-death experiencers are emphatic when asked directly, and I did, was the experience dreamlike in any way? The answer is a resounding no. It isn't close at all to a dream. Dreams tend to bounce around a little bit. They tend not to have order or structure. Very often a dream will end without it reaching a logical conclusion in the sequence of events. Not so with near-death experiences. They're highly structured, highly ordered. They tend to have a very logical initial part of the experience, and at the end of a very orderly and structured experience, there's a very orderly and structured end of the experience, and that's when the experience ends. Near-death experiences are nothing like dreams. If you've had a frightening near-death experience like some of those that I've described, there is no question that when you have that experience, this forces you to look at yourself. This is something that really shakes up your life in a major way. You've really got to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, why did this happen? What's really going on here? Is this the reality? It really forces you to understand what is the reality of what's going to happen when I die.
Dr. Richard Kent, a retired medical doctor, has studied the NDE over many years, traveling the world and writing books on the subject. Of the 300 case studies he has made, an alarming amount report the existence of a realm similar to the one encountered by Daniel Ekechukwu.
It's just a horrendous, awful place. It's a place where people are terrified, are frightened, and people, even just who've seen hell, even years later, they recoil in horror at what they saw there. Just a place of awfulness. I've interviewed probably over 300 people who've had these experiences, and all of them have been dramatically changed. Their lives have been changed by these near-death experiences. You can't say that about hallucinations. Hallucinations simply aren't life-changing experiences, whereas near-death experiences, when you meet Jesus Christ and either see heaven or hell, they are dramatic, riveting, life-changing experiences, and almost invariably people's lives are dramatically altered as a result of these experiences. So personally, and also because of the fact that the near-death experience accounts are so remarkably similar not only to each other but also to the Bible, I personally believe that these are real events and people are describing real events. If you read any newspaper today, you'll read about people having a near-death experience of a type, leaving their body and going along a tunnel and going to a place of light. It's only those who get really close to who recognize Jesus Christ. They describe him as nearly 6 foot tall, but radiating light, tremendous amount of light coming from him, from his face and from his chest and from his arms and from his legs. But people, it isn't just the appearance of Jesus, it's the fact that they feel in the presence of so much love. Many people said they've never felt like that. They've never felt so completely surrounded by love, powerful as that. It's just incredible love.
Though scientific research has shed a lot of light onto the subject, it is only those who have experienced firsthand the reality of a life after death that can truly give us insight into what happens when we die. Like Ian McCormick, a native New Zealander, McCormick would undergo a life-changing experience as a result of his extraordinary encounter with death and the life beyond. Fact or fiction? You decide after seeing the following episode.
I think about in the late 70s, I saw a movie called Endless Summer. It depicted some young Californian kids with their surfboards traveling the world looking for the endless summer, no winter, and the perfect wave. It captured my heart, and I thought, well, that's me. Travelled for 2 years through Australia, Southeast Asia, Bali, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and ended up sailing down to a small island called Mauritius. And this island had great surf and great diving. I surfed there, dived there, lived with the local Creole fishermen, Simon and Danielle Dadoum, in a place called Tamarin Bay.
Cheers, guys.
Hey, wait, Ian. Are we going diving tonight?
Diving tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, the weather doesn't look so good.
That's good.
Okay.
As we rode down there, you could see the fluorescence in the water. You know, you lift the water up and the fluorescence just sparkling. Beautiful night. And we came down to Rivière Noire, which is on the outer reef, and dropped in. And we started getting crayfish.
What's this little guy? If this is the best you can do, I'm going back to New Zealand.
Hey!
Hey, don't make this, man.
You feel?
We'll wake up the shark.
No worries, mate.
It was quite dark because the clouds were coming in, so there was no real moonlight, and there was a little bit of a chop on the water. While I was diving on the island, they taught me to night dive. We used to dive on the outer reef. And as we dived, we'd look with our diving torches because the crabs and the crayfish would come out. And with your torchlight, you could blind them. And with your leather gloves, just pick them up. So I looked around the water and started making out these jellyfish, box-shaped, finger-like tentacles. I thought, well, is that a jellyfish? Yeah, it must be. So I reached out, and sure enough, it was a jelly. As I swam through, I had no idea that I'd just reached out and grabbed potentially the deadliest, some say the second deadliest creature known to man, a box jellyfish, obviously, because it's box-shaped. But it's transparent, bell-shaped, with like a cube underneath the bell, with finger-like tentacles coming out. I actually thought it was like a transparent cuttlefish, or it was a very unusual looking jellyfish. Something smashed in my arm and stung me. And it felt like thousands of volts of electricity went through my arm, so it literally shook me in the water. As I swam towards them, I started getting stung by more. I got hit a fourth time.